Hi there, welcome to Lesson 8. In Lesson 8, we're going to be taking a little bit more of a deep dive into formulas. So formulas are a really powerful feature within Protopie. And you can think of formulas as similar to they're called formulas in Excel. So those little one-liners of maths to do calculations. You can also compare formulas to a feature in After Effects called expressions, which again are single lines of JavaScript which allow you to do some cool things. And formulas inside of Protopie also allow you to do some really cool things. They really open up your world to some more advanced interaction. And there is a learning curve to them, but you can also use some simple formulas really quickly and get a grasp on how formulas work. So this is what this lesson is all going to be about. Okay, so in front of us, we've got another prototype. And in this prototype, I'm going to be creating a tab navigation system. So I've got these two tabs at the top of my screen, and I've got this pill graphic, which is sitting underneath my text labels. And I want to be able to tap on these tabs, and I want my pill to animate from left to right. So I want my pill to animate to underneath my tab label. On top of that, I actually want the length of my pill label to match the length of the labels themselves. And if that wasn't enough, I want my page here to page to page 2. So you can see page 2 over here off screen. I want tapping these two tabs to control this as well. So there's quite a lot to do. And all of this is going to be using the power of formulas. We're not going to be hard coding any values at all here. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that my pill graphic is already too long. So I want to just set some triggers and responses to make sure that that pill is the correct length and that it's in the correct position. So we're going to come over to our triggers panel. And actually, I'm going to pre-select my pill graphic so that the target gets selected automatically. And I'm going to add a start trigger. If you remember from previous lessons, the start trigger is an automatic trigger. So it allows you to make things happen automatically. In this instance, I'm going to use it to set the stage, set some presets for my scene so I don't have to worry about it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, with the start trigger created, I'm going to select my pill and I'm going to add a move trigger. And I'm going to come over to my settings here and I'm going to come to the X position. I'm going to hit the FX icon and I'm going to open up my formula input field and I'm going to select the plus button. And I want it to start at the same position as my recents text label. So I want to find my recents text label in the list here. I'm just going to select that. And I'm going to hit a dot to access this menu. So this menu within formulas gives you access to all of the properties of layers. And you get a lot of common properties between layers like X, Y, width and height, rotation. Sometimes you get some unique properties which are specific to certain kinds of layers as well. In this instance, we're just going to use the X position and I'm going to choose that. So now I've completed my formula. I've chosen my target, which is the recents layer, and I've chosen my property, which is the X property. So I'm going to click OK on that. We can see that our response has gone white, which means Protopie is happy we've filled out all of the information. And that's going to basically make sure that my pill starts at the same X position as recents. Just to emphasize that, I'm going to just put that completely out of position. Okay, so the second response I want to add to this is a scale response. So I want to make sure that my pill is exactly the same width as my recents label as well. So with the pill selected as my target, again, I'm going to go into my width property this time. I'm going to tap FX and tap plus, and I'm going to find my recents label. Here it is. And I'm going to hit the dot. And this time I'm going to choose the width property. And I'm going to click OK. Okay, so let's just bring in my preview window here. So you can see, let me just make sure this is on top. Always on top. So you can see here that my pill is the correct width and at the correct position. So already my formula has run, and if we just quickly reload, hitting the reload button down at the bottom here, you can see just briefly that it's animating into position. Okay, so we don't actually want to see that, so let me just close this off. So I'm just going to take the animation off, so just make the duration 0 on both of these. And it doesn't really matter whether it's start after jump or start with jump. I'm going to click restart every time, although we're not really going to be creating any other scenes, but it's just good practice to do that. Okay, so I've set up my start trigger block, and my pill is in the correct position. Okay, so the next job to be done is to actually make these labels tappable. So I'm going to start with all my stuff. I'm going to pre-select that, and I'm going to add a tap trigger. Okay, so to that tap trigger, I'm going to add a move response, and I'm going to choose the target of my move to be the pill. And I want to move the pill to a particular position, and I don't want to be worried finding out like all my stuff, where is it? Oh, it's at position 194, and type all that in. I'm just going to use the power of formulas to do all that hard work for me. So I'm going to tap into my X position. I'm going to tap on FX and plus, and I'm going to find all my stuff, the label. Here it is. I'm going to select that. I'm going to tap a dot, and I'm going to tap X. So this formula is going to move my pill to all my stuff's X position. That's good. Okay, so that deals with the movement, but I also want it to be the same width. So again, I want to add a scale response, make sure my pill is targeted, tap into width, hit FX, hit plus, and I'm going to again select all my stuff, but this time when I type the dot, I'm going to choose the width property, and I'm going to click OK. Okay, so let's just run that preview and see what we've got. So I'm going to tap on all my stuff, and voila, you can see that my pill has not only moved, but it's also scaled to be the correct width. Pretty neat, huh? Okay, so let's close this off. We've got some more work to do. We want to be able to tap the other label as well, the recents label. So I'm just going to duplicate this whole tap block, just Command D on Mac, Control D on Windows. I'm going to change my tap target to recents, and I'm going to keep my pill as the target, but I'm just going to change these formulas. So from all my stuff, it's actually easier. Unfortunately, it's not like that easy to replace things. You can see there, crazy things happen. So it's normally easier just to delete the whole thing out. I'm going to hit my plus button, and I'm going to choose my recents text label, and I'm going to find the X property and just reselect it. And I'm going to do the same for scale, but this time it's going to be recents, tap the dot, and it's going to be the width property. Okay, so I've set my two tap triggers to enable both of these tabs. Let's test that and make sure it's working properly. So I tap all my stuff and it navigates, and I tap recents and it navigates back. Okay, so with the power of formulas already, we've created a pretty cool interface without having to worry about pumping in all the values. And the really good thing about this is if I change the text, so say for example, I change the text. Let's just remove this preview window. So these two text layers are kind of embedded text at the moment. So I'm just going to convert them into real text. Let me change recents to real text. The way you do that is you select the text layer here and you tap the convert to text button over here. Okay, so now this is a real text layer. So now it's a real text layer. I can type whatever I want into it. So let's type something else. Let's type favorites. Okay, so now I've got my favorites. I'm just going to move that reposition that somewhere. And now that I've typed that, I've actually chosen a word that's longer. So without having to touch anything, I can just go back into my preview window, and you can already see that the pill is the correct size. I can tap to all my stuff as I did before, and I can also tap to favorites. In fact, I could move this anywhere and it's still going to work because it's effectively connected. So there you go, a really cool usage for your formulas. Okay, so we're not quite done yet. We've just got one more thing to do. I've got these 2 pages and I want to be able to have these pages move when I also tap the tabs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another response. I'm going to choose the All My Stuff tap block and I'm going to add a scroll response. Okay, so inside of this scroll response, I'm going to select my scroll view, which is pages. And I want to effectively make the pages inside. So just to look over on the layers panel, I've got these 2 groups called page 1 and page 2. And they're both 375 pixels wide. The whole canvas is 375 pixels wide as well. And I just want them to page from left to right. Okay, back to scroll. Okay, so I'm going to select my pages scroll view as the target. And I want it to scroll to a particular position. But again, I don't want to be worried about finding out the particular value for each of these pages. So I'm going to use the power of formulas to do that all for me. So I'm going to come to the scroll to, and just under here, we've got another input field. I'm going to tap the FX icon to go into the formula window. And I'm going to tap plus, and I want it to scroll to page 2. So I'm going to find my page 2 container. I can just type it into the filter field here. I can just start typing page and they'll come up. I'm going to choose page 2, and I actually want a particular property of page 2. I want its X position. So I want it to scroll to page 2's X position, and I'm going to click OK. So let's just run that and see if that actually works. So I'm going to click on my stuff and hopefully this should page. Cool. So you can see that I've now animated between 2 pages just by clicking on all my stuff and enabling the pager to use the page's X position. Cool. So I just need to close this off and I'm going to copy this scroll. I'm just going to add it to the second tap trigger. So this is which is now called favorites. And I'm going to come into my formula and I can actually just type 1 here. You can get away with editing sometimes if you're very careful. So this time I want to scroll to page 1's X position. So I'm going to click OK. We're going to run that again. I'm going to tap all my stuff. I'm going to page to the all my stuff page. And if I tap favorites, I navigate to the favorites page. Okay, so this about wraps up this lesson on using formulas. Hopefully you can see how easy it is to get into using formulas and use some of the formulas features. We have used formulas in some of the previous lessons, but that was mainly around text and manipulating text. So I wanted to show you that you can use formulas in lots of different ways, and formulas really allows you to create some powerful features. Okay, cool. So this wraps up this lesson of formulas, and I'll see you in the next lesson.